Alright, hi. This is my second time trying to record this. My initial recording was going fine, and then my whole computer crashed. So let's try this again, because none of it saved. But then it's probably a blessing in disguise because it was going on a bit anyway. So this is sort of a devlog kind of thing. I can't remember if I've actually done a devlog on my YouTube channel like this before. I've definitely done them in the past for university and stuff like that, and I was talking about this project that I'm currently doing. It's just an RPG project to a Discord group that I recently joined. I believe it's called Negative Karma, and yeah, I thought I'd just make a video on how my camera system works in my RPG project. So my game is heavily based around the Legend of Zelda, A Link Between Worlds. I'm not very good at remembering names. Saying that, it's actually on my screen. It is A Link Between Worlds. The camera system in that is what I was trying to replicate as this initial project, and then this just mechanic testing project turned into a screw it, I'm going to build an RPG. So this is just a video on what I've got so far. First I'm going to start with showing you my reference, and then I'm going to move on to how it runs, or what I built, how that runs, and then I'll go more into the detailed kind of blueprinting and all that sort of stuff, just to show you how it works on a technical level. So let's go to the reference. Here's the reference. This is just a video from Zack Scott Games. This was released 10 years ago, which is insane. So this is just his video, gameplay walkthrough part 1, where you can see, I've just muted it, we just need the footage. Thank you, Zach. So when he walks around, let him save first, important to always save, you'll see the camera will only move when he walks past this tile. So I'm just going to skip ahead. So he's running around, and he's going to walk past that tile, and now the camera moves. So in each map segment, there is a boundary that the camera will not move in. So, will not go past, I should say, rather. So you can see he's walking around pretty easily, his camera's following him all around, until he gets to the end. Oh, sorry about that little pause. So he's just walking around breaking parts, the camera's following him freely, and then he gets to the edge, the camera stops, and then he transitions to the next area. This area is a really good example of it as well, so he's just walking around, the camera is now following him past that boundary, and as he walks around this tree you'll see that the camera will stop right there. It will not go up anymore, and it won't go any more left. No matter how much he goes left, the camera's free following past this tree, the camera will not go up anymore. So that was part 1 of what I tried to replicate. And then part 2, I'm just going to go back a few seconds onto right here. So when he reaches this tile, as he walks past it, the camera then moves. The game takes control of Link and the camera moves. So just one more time. The player will reach that tile, the game will automatically move Link to the next part of the map, moves about 3 tiles, and then the player has control over Link again. You'll just see it again right here. Game moves him over, and then the player has control. Of course this one has like a little animation, but then he can move. The camera goes around freely until he reaches a boundary. In this case he's just going inside, but if he were to reach the edge of the map, it would stop moving. Here we are in the game. As you can see, there's 2 boxes on the screen. You've got the red and yellow. So where in Link Between Worlds, if the player got too close to the edge of the segment, the camera would stop. In that game they are using a tile-based system. I don't know if they're using the tile-based system for the camera, but they're certainly using it in their map level design. And the camera just so happens to stop on the edge of a certain tile. So maybe they're using a tile-based system, maybe not. I'm just using inserted measurements, Unreal units, whatever they're meant to be in Unreal. So there is a 300 UE measurements gap between the red and yellow. if I walk around in the yellow box, the camera will follow me freely. If I pass the yellow box, the camera, stop, back in, stop, back in. So that's essentially the same as The Legend of Zelda. If I wanted to make it so the camera would truly stop here, I'd just have to move in the border to here, and then move in the border to about there. So then this would be the top right corner. I'd have to have a bigger map as well, otherwise it would just invert the box on itself. And then as for the level transitions, I've got two different level transitions, room change, map segment change. I've got two different versions. I've got one with the two boxes, or I've got one without boxes. This side's version 1, the other side's version 2. They do exactly the same thing, but the second one's a bit more technical than the other. But I'll just pass this on so you can see. So I'm still walking around in this segment. As soon as I pass right here, I am moved by the game. I'm not moving at all. Again, if I move, I'm moving. Oh, sorry, the character's moving. I'm not moving, and I'm taken to the next map. And so crossing over that border, I am now attached onto this map's segment, this segment's camera, and I can again move around. And then this works for the bigger areas as well. If I just come over this way, that's the version 1 room change. I can move all around this area as much as I want. The camera will not go past that yellow line, but it will move freely within this space. Before we go into the technical side, this is the size of the map. There's not really much going on, it's just 5 segments. You can see you can access every segment from any point as long as there is the transition. If I just press G, you can see all the collisions. So we're going to go and delve into the blueprints now, just have a quick skim through, and hopefully I can explain it well, because it's not overly complicated. It's one of those ones where it took a while to get to the perfect units and positions and stuff like that. So it should be quite easy to replicate once you get the sort of guideline around it. Right, so I did just record an explanation, but then I realised it took like 15 minutes, and it should not be that long, and I was really badly explaining everything. So the red and yellow box that you saw are just debug boxes. They are made by getting the bounds of the component, so the floor, minusing the distance, and then creating the box. On my begin play, it's got exactly the same thing. Find the bounds of the component, the floor, minus the distance, and set that as the camera's border. If I wanted to make a rectangle rather than a square border, all I'd have to do is create another one of these that can hold a different value and plug that into Y. Just to cut in here, editing version of me, that's wrong. You don't split it. It's I don't know why I got confused there. It checks the components bounds, the floor component bounds, and then it minuses 300. It doesn't matter if it's a rectangle or a square. The bounds will always have a 300 UE units gap from the edge to the camera bounds. You don't need two different floats. I don't know why I thought that. That's not the case. The map that the player is currently standing in, the segment of the map, that's what that checks. Am I the starting map? If so, move camera to edge, start the follow, set that as the camera, the active camera. And then the start cam follow just opens up this event tick trigger, which has check player X and Y, which is a constantly updating. Is the player within the boundary, the border that we just set? If so, move the camera with the player. If they are over the border, do not follow them. It's pretty simple, just like that. I also have camera to edge, which means so there was an issue excuse me, an issue where on moving into a new segment, you'd merge to the camera, the blend to the camera that was still moving over to you. So stop that as soon as you enter the new segment, the camera's just moved before the blend starts. And so that's just what this is checking. It finds the nearest point the camera can move to within the border nearest to the player before the camera is then, or before the player's view is then blended over to that camera. And in there we just use this small function, find player distance to center. It's just this that just finds the difference in location. Pretty simple. So this is what it looks like. It's got an enum which changes the biome, desert, mountain, forest. Has that just changed everything? That has just changed everything. Oh well. And then, yeah, that's basically it. And then there's this border. If you leave it, the camera stops following you. It closes that gate. So it's not a constant, like, 15 cameras trying to follow you at once. It will only follow you if you have entered that collision box. And if you leave, it stops. Pretty simple stuff. It's like it's all kind of simple stuff, but it's not simple to get there. That's sort of a lot of what I've been doing recently, trying to figure out these simple mechanics that actually create a lot of thought to get to that point. We have two versions of the part where, in the video, in the reference, where Link changed from one map segment to the next. I created it twice. I'm thinking of the version 3, I suppose, in my mind, but show you what I've got. So this is version 1, just like a little gate you walk through. It's just a flattened collision box, and that little white cube over there tells you its location that the player is going to be forced to move to if they pass through that box. Everything works on an enum, so if I were to change this to left, all the locations, the camera and the destination will be inverted. That's all on the construction scripts. And then just the same with these ones as well. Where this one goes up, if I were to make it go down, it then just moves the destination down. So I was initially pretty happy with this, but then I realised if I'm going to have to do every single one, that's going to be really annoying. Instead, I created this one, which instead of having to manually select for a drop down, you just press. So this was what it used before. You can now just press north or south, north, south, or east, west by just ticking that box for north, south, unticked east, west. Pretty simple. So the first version is simply, if you walk through one, then you won't be able to walk through any others until you've finished walking through that one, just to make it so you're not ping-ponging back and forth between two of these gates. This doesn't work in the second version, but it's worth going over real quick. If I were to enter on the very edge, I would leave on the very edge. Very edge, very edge. Center, center. That's what this does. This just moves the destination depending on your access point. Essentially, it looks where you are. It looks where you are, moves the destination on either the X or Y value depending on what direction you're going to walk through it, and navigates you to the new destination. Weirdly, on the new version, it makes you do like this U shape, upside down U, and it always ends up in the center, even if I select that. So that might just be like a timing thing, delay thing, but I'm not really that concerned about it. It's more of those like quality of life things, something small for the sake of having it. But it's not really that big of an issue, especially if the gates are quite small anyway. And then the rest of it is just disable the input, blend the camera, move to the destination, and that's the player controller, so the player's moving to the destination. Delay, enable input, reset do once, which does the camo for the next room. So version 2 looks a little bit more complex, but it's really not. So the same is, the beginning is completely the same, so we can just ignore that. this is the bit where it aligns the destination with the entry point. It doesn't work. Don't know why. If we go onto here, starts the same. Disable input. Turn the player's view into the camera in the blueprint, and then we check: is the player going north/south, or are they going east and west? If they are going north/south, then we want the Y value. No, sorry, the X value. It's right there in front of my face. I'm still getting it wrong. We want their we want to find if their X is greater than the blueprint's X. If it is greater than the blueprint's X, then they are coming from the north, which, you know, very Game of Thronesy sounding. So we say player is north of the box, and we navigate them to destination 2. I kind of wish I labelled these the other way around. Destination 2 is on one side. There it is, destination 2. Destination 1's on the other. So we navigate them to destination 2. Delay, enable input, reset do once. Same thing. And then if they are coming from the east, exactly the same. If they are coming from the south or the west, then we have a look at the, where is it going? We have a look at the players. What am I saying? We don't have a look at the players anything. We move them to destination 1. Because I was just looking at that, like, why am I doing that? No, because the Z's always going to be the same. Unless I do like height stuff, but for now I'm just leaving it the same. So just to show you in the game, as you saw there were print strings. It's in the top left as it usually is. It may be a little bit hard to see. When you run through it, player north of box, player south of box, player west of box, yep, I always get those mixed around, and player east of box. So what I'm planning to do, or at least maybe play around with a little bit, is instead of having that checkbox, I might just make it one big thing, checks if the location is greater in the X than the location in the Y, then they must be coming from the north. But that could also confuse some systems down the line. So this version 2 may be the version to go with. I believe I could also flatten this, but it's working absolutely fine, and I do not want to touch it, to be honest with you. It's absolutely fine as it is. The smallest I could probably go with it is like have it like there. That might do fine. But for now I've got these huge, oversized gaps just for the sake of testing, and this could be covered up with just like 2 trees, So yeah, that's my version of the Legend of Zelda's A Link Between Worlds and A Link Between Times camera system. So I hope people can draw something cool out of this. Maybe they want to replicate itself, because there isn't actually that many tutorials how to do this online. So feel free to use this in whatever you can if you understood a word I said. So yeah, that's been a sort of devlog. Maybe I'll do another one. Who knows? I shall see you maybe soon.